Welcome to a special Talking Feds one-on-one. Today, we've got someone whose story the country has followed with great interest over the past few years. She has been at the center of the allegations of grave misconduct on the part of Donald Trump, both before and during the presidency, and has fought valiantly against Team Trump's every tactic in the book and some dirty ones not in the book to silence and humiliate her. But now she's written her own book with her own story. I'm talking, of course, about E. Jean Carroll, whose unwelcome claim to fame is to have been grossly sexually assaulted by Donald Trump in a Bergdorf Goodman dressing room in the 1990s, and then repeatedly defamed by him before and during his first presidency. Actually, I should say during and after his first presidency. Welcome to Talking Feds, E. Jean Carroll.
Thank you, Harry. I enjoyed watching you talk about the case on MSNBC.
Oh, great. And let me say, most people know you, E. Jean, but E. Jean's a journalist, an author, one of the very few people who have conquered Trump in court and forced him to face real consequences to the tune of, if the appeals hold up, almost $100 million. But she has had a long and varied career, including writing for Saturday Night Live, hosting a talk show, being a triumphant beauty contestant, and of course, writing the Ask E. Jean column since 1993. But these days, you can find her on Substack. And of course, the occasion for our discussion, she's got a new book out, Not My Type. One Woman versus a President. Can I just start by saying what an inspired title that is? But it debuted as an instant bestseller this June. So that's what we're mainly talking about, but I hope we'll have a few detours as well.
Wow, what a wonderful introduction here. I mean, I need to just say goodbye, and I'm going to go play with
All right, well, thank you very much for being on Talking Feds one-on-one. All right. No, but seriously, the book has been described as harrowing, which of course it is, and the story is, but also as highly comedic, even delicious, as among the descriptions. Not the kind of words, in other words, you might expect from a book about what must have been the hardest, most frightening episode of your life and its aftermath. Tell us about your approach to writing, and in particular, well, just to embellish a little bit more to me and listeners, it has elements of like a trial potboiler. The two trials are the sort of scaffolding of the book, but also a very lively magazine article and a harrowing personal account. You had so much to deal with and so many approaches you could have taken. And you took, the one that I think I've described. Why? How did you decide to go in that somewhat jaunty, could I say, way of writing?
Harry, I had no choice. I had thousands of pages of official court transcripts. I had hundreds of pages of deposition. And if you seriously read even a half page of this, it would strike you as highly bizarre and extremely comic. Well, you grew up with this, but to me, the language of the courtroom was hysterical. The rules made no sense. I got to meet a couple of characters straight out of Charles Dickens. I mean, Joe Takapina with his shoulders out to here and his shotgun voice and his drama and his $6,000 suits and his $3.3 million Patek Philippe watch and his eyes like whirligigs and his hair oil. And he's fabulous. He's fabulous. Great criminal defense lawyer. Then on the second trial, you had the very beautiful, very arrogant, very elegant Alina Abba Esquire, who does not know diddly squat about the law. Not one.
It is so clear. And she's now the nominee to be U.S. Attorney in New Jersey. God help us all.
Yes. Yeah. And Harry, I think she's going to, after she wins that, She's going to run for office, and she may have a large portion of our futures unless we put a stop to it pretty quick. Yeah.
All right, but you're being, I mean, very sort of, showing a lot of vivacity in describing it. But Joe Takapina in the book is saying, you hate men. And then when you say, no, I don't, you hate men. So I mean, it's true, but these characters are, some of them anyway, in a morality tale meant to absolutely decimate and humiliate you.
Oh, yeah.
What was that like? And how'd you keep your cool? Or would you say you always kept your cool? Give the personal aspect of it, it's sort of belied by some of the presentation, but it's some serious stuff. And you were really in the hot seat.
Well, Joe Takapina is one of the finest defense attorneys in the country, but he's a criminal defense attorney. And he did what his client, Donald Trump, asked him to do, which was to beat up on me on the stand. Joe Takapina came right out of the 16th century, right? He's dressed like a peacock. The way he attacks me is he's questioning me as if, I'm not exaggerating, it was 400 years ago. The ancient way of looking at women was appalling. The Republicans, Donald Trump, Joe Takapina, have this perfect victim in mind. Perfect victim always screams. Perfect victim always goes straight to the police, Harry, no matter if she...
And always resists, doesn't go into the dressing room.
Oh.
I mean, that's the sort of textbook play.
And also, they beat up on me because I smiled.
Yeah.
And because 4 years ago, I said I was fabulous. And because 5 years ago, I went to a party. That's we are not anybody who's ever been sexually assaulted or abused, not to crack a smile from that moment on. And that's it. Go to your cave, cover yourself in a dishcloth, and never get on with your life. That was what he did. And he's beat up on me and beat up on me. And it was sort of a magnificent thing to see, because you can see when he got...
Were you kind of seeing it as it was happening? So were you a writer and a plaintiff at the same time?
Oh, no, I saw it as a prize fight, as you well know.
Yeah.
Because this is the Joe Takapina style. I mean, jab, 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 jab. He wants to give me a cut. If he can cut me, if he can find one instant where I come close to saying something that he can catch, then he jab, 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 jab. So,
but you're no Henry Cooper.
No, see, that's what was so wonderful. Towards the end of the trial, Harry, he beat up on my older witnesses, and he beat up on a New York icon, a Black woman, Carroll. He beat up on her so badly, I thought, wait a minute, is Joe Takapina, why is he beating up on a grandmother? And then it occurred to me, Donald Trump hired Joe Takapina because he beats up on Black women. That's the kind of thing.
I was at the New York trial, and his lawyering, just as objectively speaking, was mediocre at best. They all had kind of one speed and one speed only. But let's move to...
What do you think? Let me hear your opinion of Joe Takapina's job.
Well, I didn't know he didn't figure in me, but Alina Habba did, as by the way did new virtual Third Circuit Judge Emile Bove, Todd Blanche.
Oh.
But let's move to the hero side of the table here, because you were prepared for this, and you really did. The sort of real main. Well, the book is dedicated to Robbie Kaplan, your really killer of a lawyer, and so let's just talk about that somewhat, because it's seems to have been really the ballast that kept you going all the way through, and a sort of love between you two, including tough love. There were times when in the book, Robbie's like, Eugene, stop, etc. So tell us a little bit about that and your coming to have the courage, fortitude, but also informed fortitude to make the decision to go to trial where the likes of Joe Takapina were going to be all over you.
Well, Robbie Kaplan is one of the great legal minds of her generation. There's no question. She doesn't just think ahead, Harry. You're a great litigator. You know what Robbie's doing. She's thinking 4 or 5 moves ahead. And to be around her, this is a woman who won Windsor in front of the Supreme Court, which opened the road to gay rights across America. This is a woman who's only like this tall. She's about the size of an Olsen twin. Trouncing the Nazis in Charlottesville and the Proud Boys and the Ku Klux Klanners. So Robbie is a beast. She is a woman who was born with a lust for battle. Okay. So we're well matched. Robbie was the brawn and the brains, and I was the witness. And it was also, she's just fun. She's fun. She's superstitious, like all attorneys. And she is idiosyncratic. And one of the great moments in the last trial, when Donald Trump is sitting in the courtroom with his hair all done up like Barbara Stanwyck in Ball of Fire, his mom.
Scary, actually. That's where I saw him very closely.
Really.
And I think you described the apricot kind of the best description I've seen.
God.
His once over handsome face coated in bright apricot makeup. Man, there's some good turns of phrase here. Anyway, go ahead. Bright apricot. I'm sorry. Sorry, listeners. I got to keep going. Bright apricot makeup, the thickness of Elizabeth I's death mask. Okay. Anyway, go ahead.
So he's sitting there. He has no idea what's coming. Robbie Kaplan, coiffed to a fare they were. Her hair has been blown to perfection. Takes the lectern and addresses the jury for the final argument of the day. And Robbie starts spewing fact after fact. Where did she get the fact? She got them from the fraud trial depositions about how much money Trump has. So she is telling the jury, he says his brand alone is worth $10 billion, right? And she's also telling the jury, while we are sitting here, he is defaming E. Jean Carroll as we sit here. On his social media, sometimes they would post 40 times a day. And she said, how much money will it take to make him stop? That was one of her openers. Then she went forward and gave out so many facts and raised her voice to such an extent, Trump stood up and turned around and walked out of court. I've
national news. Yeah.
I mean, it was unbelievable. That is what somebody who's guilty does. I mean, they get up and leave, like turn tail. He turned tail. Robbie Kaplan drove him. So you should have seen the steam coming off of him when he walked out. His face, you see the color of this jacket, whatever this color is, that's right. He looked. It was what a chicken. He would not even sit there to listen to it. Oh, it was yummy. And he lost the case just by walking.
Yeah, no, he likes winning, but he doesn't like to fight much, does he? Okay, and so listeners know this is the second trial that was just about damages, even though I don't think we need to go through the convoluted, though you do it very well in the book, explanation of how that's actually the first case you filed, et cetera. But I want to stick with you, E. Jean, and maybe even a step back. You know, this happens to you around 1995. You have to place it later. And, you know, you keep it to you in a very, you describe how it really harms your life, affects your ability to have relationships and the like. And now let's fast forward to 2019 when you publish your story in New York Magazine. You know, the event is well in the past. This boorish would-be society figure was now probably the president of the United States.
That's a great description. A boorish, social figure. That's perfect. That's perfect.
Well, I can't compete with you. We're going to have some other phrases I want to say. Alina Halbe, you mentioned, with her diamond as big as the Ritz. Anyway, but no, I mean, a serious question. Why did you, this is before the lawsuit, this is before George Conway, interestingly, who people know, said you could actually have a defamation suit. This was you coming out and telling a story. Why did you choose to take him on, especially when, as you write, you had trained yourself for years not to think of Donald Trump? It was such a, you know, why put yourself through it? What was your thought process?
Well, Weinstein happened. You know, Jody Kantner and Megan Twohey. Put that story on. And scores of women.
Still happening.
Forward.
Yeah.
And across the country, women stood up. And I thought, I am a chicken shit. And remember, I had to ask Eugene Con. Women were writing to me, should I come forward? And I always told those women, oh, yes, you got to speak up, speak up. And there I was, just a lily-livered, you know, living under a rock. And I just said that, God damn it, I was 75 years old. I'm going to come forward. And I did it. That's it. That was it. I was just had reached the age where I couldn't stand it another minute longer and just did it. And one of your friends, Lori Abraham, is the one who edited that New York Magazine cover story. Lori Abraham was the one, she got to the paragraph where I said, and I never had sex again. Lori called me immediately when she read it. She said, Eugene, what? Why? You know, no, she was an excellent editor. And yeah, that's how it happened.
Talking Feds is supported by the Brennan Center for Justice. In this new political era, the Brennan Center will do what they do best: defend the Constitution and the rule of law. They're prepared to fight against presidential overreach and will continue advocating for reforms to resist weaponized government, stop billionaires from corrupting our elections, and ensure every eligible American has the freedom to vote. Stay informed by visiting BrennanCenter.org.
Let's stick a little bit more with the trial, just for listeners. Really, it's an education in how that big stakes litigation works, including something like 3 mock trials and the like. You were there, you were observing it. The stakes were high for you personally. What was a big surprise for you, if any, at the trial?
Well, the most delicious surprise was the verdict coming in on the second trial, when Judge Kaplan said to the jury, have you reached a verdict? And a woman stood up in a rose-colored sweater, publicist, and she said, we have, Your Honor. And he said, would you please hand the verdict to Andy the clerk? She hands the verdict to Andy the clerk. Andy the clerk unfolds it and looks at it to read it, and he shakes his head. I picture him scratching his head. I'm not sure, but
no, you vividly described this very moment.
And so then he turns to Judge Kaplan, hands it up to Judge Kaplan, gives it to Judge, and Judge Kaplan reads it, and his eyebrows start to raise, and he says, Madam Foreperson, what does the M mean?
You and high-fiving Robbie under the table.
Robbie Kaplan and Sean G. Crowley on this side, we just floated up. Have you, Eric, have you ever heard a moment like that on a verdict? What does the M mean? Only in New York? Yeah. I mean, come on.
And look, I got to say, we looked at different interviews and stuff. You do seem liberated and joyous over beating him. But let me go to the sort of social posture we're all in. Your case essentially established that the president of the United States, our current president, is a rapist. I'm comfortable with that term, though. There's this whole picayune
Harry, better back up.
with
Better back
you know,
up.
well, look, what Judge Kaplan found that the jury used the common understanding of rape, but look, at best, serious sexual assault. The point I always make about this for insiders who are really listening is it didn't matter. So they didn't really decide one way. It was easier to go to sexual assault because the result were the same. But leaving that all aside, at a minimum, and, defamation free, is they found a gross sexual assailant, where, other candidates in our lifetime, have Gary Hart, maybe Clinton, have been terribly roughed up for adultery. What's your take and your emotional reaction to the fact that somehow he's gotten, even now, as you're looking to collect $100 million, he's gotten much of the country to shrug it off and not weigh it in the overall assessment of who should lead this country?
Harry, this is the least of our problems. Look, we now have concentration. Whether he had liable for sexual abuse now it's been washed away. Now, can I let my dog in?
Of course. Oh, I'll see if I can get mine.
Okay.
Dipper, Orion, we're going to have a little doggy party with E. Jean.
There's Miss Havisham.
Oh, what a looker. You have two, I thought, Eugene, don't you?
And then we got Orion.
Orion was the name that we inherited, but it was a great name, so we thought we had to go with a astrological one.
Baby.
So that would be Dipper.
Oh, he's a hello. Yeah. Hello. So, now that it's been held liable for sexual, it's nothing. We have concentration camps. We just lost the entire Department of Education. It's coming apart at the seams. So yes, it is. Harry, the time has come. No leader is rising. No leader is standing up. We have to do it ourselves, Harry. That's what's happening right now.
All right. I guess that's, as an advice columnist, it sounds like that's the official one. I was really bound and determined, and we don't have that much time, man, this goes quick, to talk boxing with you, because we do share that. Let me just ask, you start in 54 as a kid, you move through Ali, you move through Tyson.
Yeah.
Are you like a Joyce Carroll Oates aesthetic lover of boxing, or are you a flat out hit him, knock him out kind of fan? Tell us how this came to be, and what aspect of your multifarious personality this is.
Well, I'm no Joyce Carroll Oates. She is right up there with the Sweet Science, with my favorite writer.
A.J. Liebling.
Yeah. Oh wow, I'll practically have him memorized. So they're way up here. I loved it on a visceral sense because in 1954-55, a pair of red boxing gloves landed on my street in Fort Wayne, Indiana, and we kids just boxed each other and tried to knock each other out. And ever since then, I saw the great Ali fight when he walked up to Sonny Liston, who was terrifying. Nobody had ever seen anything like Sonny Liston before. He
knockout with both hands, really an underrated fighter because history.
Ali, Olympic champion. Excuse me, Cassius Clay.
Cassius Clay at the time, right?
Champion.
Till the next day, yeah.
And it was, I was in a closed circuit. Nobody could believe it. That Sonny Liston went down and stayed down. We just couldn't believe it. And so I was a fight fan ever since. It was,
Well, you come by it honestly. I still replay that period. One of the most exciting, like that first round, the fifth round, unbelievable. Man, the time moves quickly. I just want to say you are not quite at the end of the road, but you've really persevered, and you're looking at both the cases, the victories of about $100 million are on appeal, but the grounds seem slight to me. But anyway, you have a few more steps until some president of the United States has to write a check for about $100 million. Godspeed in the rest of your journey. And, I know it had a lot of personal meaning, but I think it's had a lot of national and social meaning as well, that you brought this fight. So Thank you for doing it, and good luck with the battle in its hopefully final few steps.
Harry, if I can beat Donald Trump, and I am an 81-year-old woman, if I can beat Donald Trump twice, anybody can beat him. We've got to stop being frightened of him. That's it. Got to stop.
From your ears. All right. Talk to you again, I hope.
Harry, I loved it. I loved it.
Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this video and other Talking Feds content, please take a second to like and subscribe. Talk to you later.